Chapter 1 Dreams of Youth. Emma was a young woman in her early 20s, full of dreams and hopes. She grew up in a small town surrounded by fields of green, where the air was fresh and the days were long and warm. Emma had always been a thoughtful girl, often sitting by the window in her room, gazing out at the world with a book in her hand. She loved to read stories about faraway places, romance, and adventure. In her heart, she longed for a love story of her own, something beautiful and perfect, like the one she read about. Life before marriage was simple for Emma. She lived with her parents who were kind and loving. Her father worked as a teacher at the local school, and her mother was a homemaker who always had a warm smile and a pot of tea ready when Emma returned from her day. Emma had two close friends, Lily and Sarah, who she had known since childhood. They would often spend their afternoons together, talking about their dreams, future careers, and of course love. Emma believed that love was something magical, a powerful force that would sweep her off her feet. She imagined her future husband as a perfect man, kind, handsome, and thoughtful, someone who would understand her in ways no one else could. In her dreams, marriage was a beautiful journey, a partnership where two people shared everything and never had any disagreements. But as much as Emma dreamed of love, she was also focused on her studies. She was determined to become a writer one day, to create stories that would inspire others just as much as the ones she read inspired her. She worked hard in school and spent her free time writing poems and short stories, hoping that one day, she would have a book of her own. Chapter 2 The Meeting. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it, and for Emma, that surprise came in the form of Daniel. Daniel was new to town, having moved there for his job as an engineer. He was tall, with dark hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to see right into Emma's heart. They met by chance at a local cafe one rainy afternoon. Emma was sitting by the window, lost in her thoughts as she watched the raindrops fall, when Daniel approached her. "Is this seat taken?" he asked with a gentle smile. Emma looked up, surprised to see someone new. She shook her head and Daniel sat down. They started talking and soon the rain outside was forgotten. They discovered that they had many things in common: books, music, and a love for quiet, peaceful moments. Over the next few months, Emma and Daniel grew closer. They spent their weekends exploring the countryside, talking about everything from their childhood memories to their hopes for the future. Emma found herself falling for Daniel, but it wasn't like the stories she had read. It was deeper, more real. She found comfort in his presence, and she loved the way he listened to her, really listened, as if every word she said mattered. One evening, as they walked along the riverbank, Daniel stopped and took Emma's hands in his. "Emma," he said softly, "I know we haven't known each other for very long, but I feel like I've known you forever. You make my life brighter, and I can't imagine my future without you in it. Will you marry me?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment she had dreamed of, but now that it was here, it felt so much more real and important than she had imagined. She looked into Daniel's eyes and saw the sincerity there, the love that was steady and true. With a smile she nodded. "Yes, Daniel, I will." Chapter 3 The Wedding. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of excitement and planning. Emma's mother helped her pick out a beautiful white dress, simple yet elegant, just like Emma. Her friends Lily and Sarah were thrilled for her, and spent hours helping her with the decorations and choosing flowers. The whole town seemed to be caught up in the joy of the occasion, and Emma felt like she was living in a dream. The wedding day arrived. and the small church was filled with family and friends. As Emma walked down the aisle on her father's arm, she felt a mixture of emotions: happiness, nervousness, and a deep sense of love. Daniel stood at the altar, looking handsome in his suit, his eyes never leaving Emma's as she approached. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with music and heartfelt vows. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, and Daniel kissed her for the first time as her husband, Emma felt like she was floating on air. The reception that followed was filled with laughter, dancing, and the warmth of loved ones. It was a day Emma would always remember as one of the happiest of her life.
Chapter 4: The Early Days of Marriage. After the wedding, Emma and Daniel moved into a small house on the outskirts of town. It wasn't large or fancy, but it was cozy, with a little garden where Emma could plant flowers. They quickly settled into a routine. Daniel went to work during the day, while Emma stayed home, working on her writing and taking care of the house. At first, everything seemed perfect. They enjoyed their evenings together, cooking dinner, talking about their days, and planning for the future. They took walks in the garden, watched movies, and spent quiet moments just being together. Emma loved the way Daniel made her laugh, the way he was always there to support her when she felt uncertain about her writing. But as the weeks turned into months, Emma began to notice small changes. The responsibilities of marriage were more than she had expected. There were bills to pay, groceries to buy, and the house needed constant care. Emma found herself feeling tired and sometimes overwhelmed by the day-to-day tasks. She missed the simplicity of her life before marriage, when her biggest worries were her studies and her dreams of the future. Daniel, too, was facing his own challenges. His job was demanding, and he often came home late, exhausted from the day's work. Emma noticed that they didn't talk as much as they used to, and sometimes, when they did, it felt like they were speaking different languages. The perfect picture of marriage that she had in her mind began to fade, replaced by the reality of two people trying to build a life together.
Chapter 5: Learning and Growing. As time passed, Emma and Daniel faced their first real challenges as a married couple. There were disagreements about money, misunderstandings about small things, and moments when they both felt frustrated. Emma found herself questioning whether she had been naive in her thoughts about love and marriage. Was it supposed to be this hard? One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Emma sat down with Daniel and opened up about her feelings. "Daniel," she began, "I love you, but I feel like we're drifting apart. I don't want us to lose what we had when we first met." Daniel looked at her, his expression softening. "I've been feeling the same way," he admitted. "I think we both got caught up in the routine of life and forgot to make time for each other." They talked for hours that night, sharing their worries, hopes, and fears. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was a necessary one. They realized that marriage wasn't just about love and romance. It was about partnership, understanding, and working through challenges together. From that night on, Emma and Daniel made a conscious effort to reconnect. They started having weekly date nights where they would go out or stay in and do something special together. They took time to really listen to each other, to understand each other's needs and emotions. Emma found that as they grew closer again, the little things that had once seemed like problems began to fade away. Emma also made changes in her own life. She joined a local writing group, where she met other writers and found new inspiration for her work. She realized that she needed to have her own interests and passions outside of her marriage, and that it was okay to pursue her dreams while also being a supportive wife. Daniel too began to balance his work and personal life better. He made sure to come home earlier, and he started helping more with the household chores. They learned to share the responsibilities of life, making things easier for both of them. Chapter 6: New Beginnings. As the years passed, Emma and Daniel's marriage grew stronger. They went through ups and downs, but each challenge they faced brought them closer together. They learned to appreciate the small moments of joy in their daily lives, the simple pleasure of a morning cup of coffee, the comfort of a shared laugh, the warmth of a hug after a long day. One day, Emma discovered that she was expecting their first child. The news filled her with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She knew that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't even imagine, but she also knew that they were ready for this new chapter. The months that followed were filled with preparations and anticipation. Daniel was by her side every step of the way, helping to set up the nursery, attending doctor's appointments, and reading books about parenting. They talked late into the night about their hopes for their child, the kind of parents they wanted to be, and the life they wanted to create as a family. When their daughter Emily was born, Emma felt a love that was deeper and more powerful than anything she had ever known. Holding Emily in her arms for the first time, she realized that all the struggles and challenges of marriage had been worth it. They had brought her to this moment, to this little life that she and Daniel had created.